screen. Guardian?
Eyesupsaf.
Eyes up, YouTube. I got another build for you guys, and oh boy, is this a nice one. So, this gameplay that you guys are currently seeing on the screen right now is from -30 with the build that I'm about to go over with you guys, and it is absolutely just insane for survivability. I love this build to all death. And as you guys can see, we're getting critically wounded. All that stuff's happening, but what you won't see is you won't see a death, okay? And I'm trying to be as aggressive as I possibly can while doing this gameplay as well. Obviously, we're Destiny players, so we're still going to play undercover. We're still going to do all of those things. But I just want to show you guys how well this build can perform. And stay tuned for the end of the video as well, because after we go over the build, I'll show you guys how this handles Mythic content too. Alrighty, so let's get right into the build. So we're using the Stasis subclass for this particular build. I know that there's quite a few rhyme coat builds out there that are using the Prismatic subclass, and as I like the Prismatic subclass quite a bit, I wanted to do something a little bit different and test this out with just the Stasis subclass, and I think it works out really well. So for the abilities, we're using all the standard abilities. We are using Cold Snap Grenade just for the reduced cooldown so we can have our grenade back as quickly as possible. For the aspects, we're running Bleak Watcher because of course this is a must-have, and we're also running Glacial Harvest, which allows us to get our Frost Armor stacks and maintain our Frost Armor stacks. For our fragments, we're using Whisper of Rending, so primary ammo weapons increase the damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. This allows our Yeartide Apex to do a lot more damage in conjunction with the artifact mods. We're using Whisper of Torment, so we gain grenade energy every time we take damage from targets, and as you guys saw in the opening gameplay, we take a lot of damage, so we get our grenade back extremely fast. Whisper of Conduction allows the nearby stasis shards to track to our position, so we don't have to go pick them up. This is more of a quality of life thing, but I love having those stasis shards track to me instead of me having to put myself in danger to go get them. So I love Whisper of Conduction. And we're running Whisper of Rhyme, so our Frost Armor has increased duration and maximum stack count. So this allows us to go from a ×5 to a ×8, and it allows us to go from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, I believe. It allows us to have more Frost Armor reduction. For the weapons in this build, we are using Mint Retrograde, still my favorite, absolute favorite weapon. Shreds through barrier champions, shreds through a lot of the orange bars in the game. We're currently using Envious Arsenal with Elemental Honing. I still love this combination quite a bit, but you can also use things like Master of Arms if you want to with this particular build, because you're only really getting Elemental Honing to ×3 instead of ×4 since we're running a full stasis build. We're also running Yeartide Apex. For this particular build, I'm using Attrition Orbs with Chaos Reshaped. You can also use Binary Orbit if you want to, but I personally like Chaos Reshaped because it's easy to proc and just easy to always have active as long as you're in battle. And then for our exotic of choice, we're using Dragon's Breath to take advantage of that extra solar damage that we're going to be able to put out due to Cauterized Darkness from the Artifact mod. So Dragon's Breath is really good, and it also helps us to stun unstoppable champions. So with this particular build, we have all 3 champ types. We have Overload, Anti-Barrier, and Unstoppable, so you don't have to worry about anything. Plus, you also do get Overload champions with your Stasis, Slow, and Shatter effects. So if you do want to change out your Tide Apex for something else, maybe run something like the Phonutria, you can do that. But I really, really love your Tide Apex. Thing feels amazing. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to use this gun yet, I'd definitely say go out there and do it because it's fantastic. For our helmet, we are running Special Ammo Finder, as well as Solar Strand Dual Siphon. And I did put on a Radiant Light. You can kind of fill this spot with whatever you want, but if you're playing with a fire team, casting your super allows you to give armor charges to your allies, and we pop our super a lot. Even though the Stasis subclass has probably the worst super in the entire game, we do get it back extremely fast, so it's very, very good for crowd control. For our arms, we're currently using 2 grenade fonts with our 160 stat. These 2 grenade fonts bring us up to 200. We're also using Impact Induction. Causing damage with a powered melee attack reduces our grenade cooldown, so just feeding into getting our grenade back as quickly as possible. For our chest piece, we're using Strand Ammo Generation, so we can get ammo for our Mint Retrograde, and then we're also using Void Resist as well as Arc Resist. For our boots, we currently have 1 weapon font because we do want to put a lot into our weapons. Our weapons is our main source of damage. Everything else in the build itself is mainly for crowd control. We do have 1 solar weapon surge for when we have to use our Dragon's Breath. And then we also have reduced grenade cooldown each time we pick up an Orb of Power in Innervation. Again, just feeding into the grenade fantasy of this build. And then for our bond, we do have Reaper, so shortly after using our class ability, we can spawn an Orb of Power. We have Powerful Attraction to suck up all those orbs, and then we also have Proximity Ward. This is your choice, really. You could run something like Time Dilation if you want to in this slot, but the reason that I like Proximity Ward so much in this build is because I play it extremely aggressively, which means I do use my finisher quite a bit, and having that overshield while performing your finisher is also really nice to take advantage of. Now, with the stat breakdown, the main thing that we want to do is try to get to 160 stat grenade. If you can get to 200, even better, because then you can switch out these 2 grenade fonts and kind of free up some space there. And maybe even run something like Firepower, or you can run Grenade Kickstart if you want to. But 160 stat I found to be a really good sweet spot and allows us to get our grenade back extremely fast. And then put everything else into weapon. You want your weapons to do a lot of damage in this build due to the artifacts synergy that we're taking advantage of. So speaking of the artifact itself, I want to show you guys what we're running for this. So Fever and Chill, we're using a Yeartide Apex, which is going to be our main gun for everything. So our solar weapons grant Radiant, so you're always going to have Radiant. This is huge, right? So Frost Renewal gives you that burst when you're critical, and it freezes everything nearby, instantly creating those shards to renew your Frost armor, but also giving you the survivability that you need if you do start taking too much damage. This gives you the opportunity and the time that you need to go ahead and put a rift down, to get to a safe spot, whatever the case may be. So Frost Renewal, I love it in this build. Refresh Threads is absolutely amazing for this as well, because this allows you to gain energy back every time you're doing an elemental pickup. Those shards count as elemental pickups, obviously, so you're constantly regenning your abilities, regardless if you're using them all or not. Cauterized Darkness is a staple this season. Stasis or Strand debuffs give you extra solar damage on non-boss combatants. This is outstanding. If you guys have been using this all season, you already know how great it is, so I don't even need to talk about it. Radiant Shrapnel, I love having this in this build since we're focusing so heavily on our solar weapons. We get to create those little mini bursts of solar that do extra damage while we're Radiant. Really good as well. And then, of course, we have Shield Crush. We're always going to have Frost Armor. We're always going to have Radiant, so we get both advantages from Shield Crush. Now, I will say this. If you don't want to use Yeartide Apex and you want to use an actual Stasis weapon, you can do that. If you do that, take off Radiant Shrapnel and run Frigid Glare instead, so that way your Stasis Precision Final Blows cause your combatants to release a freezing burst. this helps even more with the crowd control. So if you want to switch up the weapons and use something different, switch to Frigid Glare if you're going to use a stasis weapon. Now, I know you guys saw the intro gameplay of how we were able to stay alive and utilize the damage reduction from Frost Armor while also pushing out a lot of damage and clearing out those adds in that -30 environment. But I also want to show you why this is so good in Mythic content as well. So the reason that this build is so good in Mythic content is we're currently here at the loot cave, right? Now we're going to put this down, drop our rift. We're going to break some crystals. We're going to get some Frost Armor stacks over here. We're already at ×4. We move up a little bit. We're at ×6. Every time something gets freezed or frozen, we get more stacks. So now we're currently at a ×8, right? Look how much more damage we can take from these guys. Our abilities are regenerating a whole lot faster. We can get our rift back multiple times. I can literally sit here and, even though I'm not pushing out a lot of damage because you guys know how tanky these bosses or how tanky these enemies are in Mythic content, you guys can see. So if you want to have a really nice build that doesn't require you to do a ton of movement and go crazy and do all that stuff, and you just kind of want to have that survivability, I would definitely check this out. Dim link is in the description below. If you guys liked the video, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think below about the video, about the build, and if you'd use this yourself. I appreciate you guys watching and checking it out. You guys have a great day. Bye.